All right, everyone. Hello again. It is Sunday night, the great start to the show so far, the 19th of 2015. And I'm Brian Zane. This is J Biggs, and we are here to talk about WWE Battleground. It just got done. Very interesting end to the show. But before we talk about that, Biggs, overall, what did you think of Battleground?
It was mediocre. I thought maybe there was going to be a few more surprises.
Yeah,
Well, say that much.
Well, what do you think the one surprise that we got, what do you think? Was it a momentous one, do you think?
No. It killed momentum, again, like WWE likes to do.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
It's one thing that they'll kind of cut their nose off to spite their face, or they'll kind of do one thing that's good, but at the same time it kind of screws over things that are currently happening that are also good.
Exactly.
But again, we'll get into that in a little bit. So let's just start from the top. First of all, we didn't see the pre-show match. We didn't see Barrett. We didn't see
King Barrett.
We didn't see the king of the pre-show match, Wade Barrett, take on R-Truth.
Jobbing.
So, no, actually, he won this one.
But yeah, that's right. Oh, lost a book.
Stack of books behind me. Anyway, yeah, so, yeah, we didn't catch that. So, sorry, we're not going to give you our opinion on it, although I think you can get an idea of what we think, how much weight we put behind Barrett and Truth these days.
Very true.
So let's start out with the opener. The official opener is Sheamus and Randy Orton in the opener. I think it was a very hot crowd. I didn't really realize at first it was St. Louis there, so I get why Orton was as over as he was. I think as a face, his reactions are kind of wishy-washy sometimes, but here was clearly defined, clearly a big deal. And then I realized, it's St. Louis, it's hometown, so there you go. But I mean, throughout the whole show, I think this crowd was very hot. They popped in all the right places.
100%.
So let me ask you a question. Do you ever watch a pay-per-view? Say you watch a pay-per-view from like 2008, and you see a match in the mid-card or the opening card, and you watch two guys fight, and you don't really know why they're fighting?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course, all the time.
I feel like I got that a lot just watching this match. Now, let me say that Orton-Sheamus was a good match. It was serviceable and everything worked well.
Yeah, it was solid.
But my one complaint is, and again, I don't watch Raw. I read the results, so I understand what's happening. And maybe if I'm not seeing it, because I'm not seeing it, it feels different. But watching this match, I was like, I don't really care why they're fighting. It didn't matter to me. And they showed the recap, and they tell you why they're fighting. But to me, all it really boiled down to was, well, one guy hit the other guy, and then the other guy hit the other guy back, and now they have a grudge match. That constitutes a grudge, I guess.
Well, like I was saying right after WrestleMania, I believe that Sheamus attacked Orton in one of his.
Did he? I thought he just attacked Ziggler, and that's what started the whole kiss me
a
arse
couple guys, because I swear the next week it was him and Orton. Maybe I'm wrong, and call me out online when you guys are chatting or whatever. But I think it was. Because there was, I thought he was going to go on some sort of a rampage and start attacking people, a lot of different people, but it was only a couple. And then they went right into the Ziggler feud.
Right.
But I think that's kind of what they were trying to stem back from, if I'm not, if I'm mistaken, like I said.
And I know better authority on that than Biggs here. But again, it was a good match. I just wasn't feeling the story. The finish, to me, I thought was a little weird. I get the whole concept of RKO out of nowhere. And I understand it's like the stunner. It's basically this generation's version of the stunner where you can hit it from anywhere and it can kind of make sense. But the thing that killed me about it was that Orton didn't really sell the move that he was in. He was in that cloverleaf for like a minute, which, really puts a crimp in your back. And he just barely sold it, if at all. And so I thought that was a little wishy-washy on his part. So the finish to me seemed a little more contrived. I felt watching this, I don't know, maybe I just was paying closer attention than I usually do, but I feel like there's, and maybe it's because we're in the business too, but I just couldn't help but feel so much of this just so staged. And it's so dumb to say when you're talking about wrestling, but it's like these two guys especially, with every spot they did, you could kind of read you could see in their face and their eye contact and their facial body language that we are going to do this next spot now. And we did it. And I felt I saw that a lot with this match. Maybe I was just reading too much into it, but that's kind of how I felt. Let me know what you think about that one.
They've been working the house shows so much together and stuff. I'm sure at this point it's a rhythm. It's
Right, and not to mention the fact that these guys have fought before over the years. Just hearing them say how Orton's a 12-time champion kind of throws you for a curve. Really,
like I said, yeah. Even though a couple reigns didn't mean shit, but at the same time, You know, like the credibility of Ric Flair, and I mean,
I know when you think about it, it took how long, 20 years for Flair to get 15 world title wins, and Cena's got
something.
Yeah, I mean, for Flair to get 16 title wins, Cena's got 15 in a decade or so. Yeah, it's nuts. But we can go on all the thing about that.
Yeah.
Moving on to the next match, New Day versus the Primetime Players for the tag team titles. I don't want to get into too much detail about this. I mean, it was a fun match. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Xavier Woods is a treat to watch. He kind of is the glue that holds the New Day together, and what makes him so funny because he's so over the top with his stuff at ringside. And I think they must be telling him to ramp it up because he is just every spot, everything that happened. They opened up his mic, the ringside mic, and he was saying something outrageous. But it was great. I think it really worked well because they're making this heel team as unbearable as possible, and I think it's working.
I was gonna say I was annoyed, so it's over.
Yeah, he's doing his job. It was a fun match. I'm trying to think. I mean, I feel like watching this match, watching this show. I'm not gonna have a whole lot of witty comments about things because I mean, there's nothing really. By and large, there wasn't a whole lot of this show to hate on, so I don't really know what I can say. That's really much of a quip.
I like how they played on the Primetime Players on Twitter, going on there and saying that New Day wants this victory. We need this victory.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like that. It kind of gave a little twist to it.
Yeah,
It's true in a way.
Mm-hmm.
They really did need to not get crushed so quick after that win.
I feel like social media. That's when social media works well with wrestling. I don't do a whole lot of when I manage, in the rare times I do, I don't do a whole lot of in-character social media stuff because I think it's kind of silly because I don't really have like a character-based separate Twitter or Facebook account, so I don't feel the need to do that. When I see wrestlers and people I know do kayfabe promos on Facebook, but not on because they are larger than life.
Exactly.
So, just for those guys, they shouldn't tweet about chemtrails or, climate change or Donald Trump or anything like that. So, keep it to pretty much wrestling-based stuff.
Exactly.
But yeah, it was a good match. So what can you say about that? Primetime Players retain, and I'm curious to see what happens with the New Day following this. If they're going to keep this feud going, or what the Primetime Players are going to do. It's always about when you see teams like that, you always wonder, well, who's the next team going to be? Who are the ones that are knock these guys off, and will it work?
I got a question. Do you think it was useful yet to bring up the Lucha Dragons? It seems like such a
no.
I don't. They haven't really done anything except really impress the crap out of me as far as their flippity flip bullshit, as Cornette says. But it's like, why? Because they have nowhere to go. They have the two. I mean, they can't put them over on the New Day right now.
No, and it's weird because now they are kind of at this period where there's kind of a dearth right now in the tag division. Well, not a dearth, I should say. They did lose one of their better teams in Kid and Cesaro with Kid's injury. So now would be a good time to elevate a team like the Lucha Dragons or the Ascension. But right now, they're just focusing on the Primetime Players, who up until their title win, I don't think I cared that much about. Because,
True.
I felt their reunion was kind of like a half-hearted thing in the first place.
Well, I think they got the recent, gay pride push too.
Oh, well. well, yeah, who knows if that's the case. Well, so moving on, next match, Bray Wyatt, Roman Reigns. I think, to me, the basis of every Bray Wyatt feud since forever, as far as I can remember, for the last 2 years, has been his campaign against false idols. His going against John Cena and Chris Jericho and Ryback, I guess, and Undertaker and all these different people. It's all been on the basis of people cheer you, but they shouldn't because vultures and buzzards. I don't know. Do you think that's a good basis for his character to be just someone who attacks these alleged false idols?
I don't know. I mean, how long can you go with it? I think it's worked so far.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to sit here and say I could have wrote anything better. So I mean, I think that it's worked. I think you need to mix it up somewhat, though.
Yeah, I think.
But he did do it this time wearing red pants.
Yes, those bright red pants of his to match the weird always looks like blood stretch on his arm. Reigns, I've noticed, I was going to say, I was writing in my notes, Reigns is over. And then as soon as I was saying that, he was doing one of his like taunts, and then people were booing. Reigns is mostly over. I put in parentheticals. Because he's definitely, you know, we've been saying this for months now. They are doing a decent job of rebuilding his image and making him someone worth cheering again. But there's still going to be that stigma. It's like, you know, people will boo Cena no matter what now, even though he's a tremendous worker. And I think no matter what Reigns does, there's always going to be people who will boo him, and in large part for what happened earlier this year and late last year. But as a man, I think, and that's the thing, I think we were talking during the show, I think a lot of what I've noticed, a lot of internet fans will say things like they should bring back more characters with shades of gray. It shouldn't be just, you know, white meat babyface versus evil heel. It should be shades of gray. I think right now what they're doing, it's kind of like a weird consequence of their wishy-washy booking. And you can say this is a good thing or a bad thing. But I think we're in that era now where a lot of people are these shades of gray because the fans, there are rarely any cases where people are unanimously cheered and booed. You know, and the motivations for wrestlers these days, I think they are a lot more questionable than they used to be, like back in the good old white meat babyface days. So I think we are getting that shades of gray thing now, and this match to me proved it, because Bray Wyatt is obviously supposed to be portrayed as a heel, but St. Louis has been very into him, and Reigns was getting cheered, but he was also getting booed. So I mean,
you know what's weird? I've noticed, and that match is a great example, and this is why, is because even at WrestleMania when we were there, you know, when Bray Wyatt comes out and you hear the music start and stuff, you don't hear everybody explode with excitement. You see him take the character in. They take it in. They get spooked out almost. Like they accept it. And then once he's in the ring, that's when they start cheering things like the spider crawl and stuff like that. Because it's like, oh, cool, he's getting some vintage stuff.
That's the thing, though. It's like heels. I always feel that heels have more of a personality. So when they do their signature things, that gets a pop. And then, you know, I think someone said it best, that the good heels will inevitably turn babyface no matter what. Yeah. So
that's very true.
I think that's, we can go into a whole debate about that. But I think also, I think as kind of a throwback to the Attitude Era podcast, the gay grunt of the night goes to Bray Wyatt here for his suplex. He goes, wow! I thought that was pretty hilarious. I love that. He's a very grunty man, that Bray Wyatt. Let's see here. What are my next notes? Okay, let's talk about the finish. Luke Harper coming back after being off TV for a little while to help out Bray Wyatt, help win the match. And you called this back at Money in the Bank. You wanted some kind of Wyatt reunion. Was it Money in the Bank or was it?
Well, no, I'm not.
whichever one we reviewed.
Not that I wanted it. No, we didn't watch Money in the Bank together. Was it the first?
It was the one before that. I forget. But
anyway, I necessarily didn't want one. I'm just saying that's what it kind of seemed like was going to happen, and then we had the injury for Luke, so that's obviously
right. Yeah, Rowan got injured, so they couldn't get the full reunion. So I'm curious how this is going to work with just Harper. And you know, I think it's okay for Harper to be back with Bray Wyatt, because as good as he was having a time as a singles wrestler, he was having a lot of really good singles matches with guys like Ziggler and Ambrose. But he was kind of aimless for a while, so I think to put him back with Wyatt's going to give him some direction again. So we will see what happens. Oh yeah, and the fact that, you know, that's why they even brought it back with Rowan to begin with. They brought that team back together, and then of course Rowan got hurt. So, you know, again, as good as he was as a singles guy, I think for right now the best thing for him is to bring him back with Bray Wyatt. Now, do you think Wyatt bringing Rowan back, I keep saying Rowan, bringing Harper back is a setback for Wyatt, or do you think it's going to improve him?
You know, I'm honestly not sure. I'm actually excited to see what they do with it.
Yeah.
Even though, yeah, we've seen them together before. Luke Harper blew me away when they separated on their own. His matches to me are some of the most enjoyable.
Right. He did a lot of he was definitely becoming a breakout guy.
Oh yeah, him and Ziggler, man, they have such great chemistry. Even though Ziggler's a small guy. Yeah. You know, and so I'm excited to see where it goes, because we never got those guys feuding other than you know, Harper and Rowan. Yeah. And that was, you know, I hate to say it, but you know, Rowan wasn't exactly all that. You know, as what was he, a winemaker or something?
Yeah, he was an artisanal winemaker, guitar prodigy. It was just such a weird throwaway thing to give him. I felt that was, but yeah, you know, they don't talk about that anymore. So he's got a Mensa IQ or whatever.
Loch Ness Monster gimmick. I like that for him. They just didn't go with it.
Yeah. Let's move on to the Divas match. Let's just get the good stuff out of the way first. I think they definitely, Sasha Banks and Charlotte wrestling Brie Bella definitely brought the NXT flavor to the match. I think there was a lot of cool, exciting stuff. It was, obviously, I think we could say it's one of the better Diva matches in the main roster show we've had for a long, long time. But if I may, I think that the fact that Stephanie McMahon is now suddenly the nucleus of this storyline just kind of kills it for me. Because for weeks leading up to this, the whole storyline has been Paige waging this war against the Bellas. And I feel last week on Raw, when Stephanie McMahon came out to introduce the new NXT ladies, I feel that should have been like a Paige thing to do, or at least to introduce her new teammates, Becky Lynch and Charlotte. But yeah, Stephanie coming out there, I think was just pure ego. I think it's just totally silly. Especially the fact that, she's a heel. That's the biggest problem.
Let's just push everything that's going on with the Authority off to the side for just a moment so Stephanie can, and you know what? I read, and this is why I brought this up to you. I read an awesome column by Mark Madden on WrestleZone, and he talked about how, Stephanie's posted all over this all of a sudden as a baby face, and how in the end, if the Divas still fail, which they may still because of creative or whatever the deal is, it's going to look bad on the Divas. Right. But if they do really well, then it's gonna, it's gonna look good on Stephanie. And the reason they pulled the trigger at Battleground instead of SummerSlam apparently was because of the Women's World Cup, and they wanted to kind of gain momentum off of women right now, really coming out. So,
because yay women! Now's the time. Now's the time. Only when women are doing something worse newsworthy. That's so dumb. But it's true. It's just a pure ego thing, Stephanie. And Stephanie's still this heelish character where she's like telling the women, "You need to shut up." And I hate to, I'm pulling this analogy from James Gutman at We Want Insanity, but could you imagine if, back in 1984, 1985, Vince McMahon, it comes out as the owner of WWF, and he's doing storyline stuff with Andre the Giant. It's Andre, you need to shut up because I'm gonna make this match. And Andre would just sit there looking an idiot. Stephanie's the only person. Yeah, Stephanie is the only person who just continually does that, where she'll just tear people down, and there's never any comeuppance, and all the people just look like idiots for sitting there and taking it. We're in this weird era now where everyone has their balls cut off when they're around Stephanie, and I think that's kind of a kind of thing with the product now. But be that as it may, also I wanted to point out how funny her promo was with JoJo earlier in the show. Speaking of Andre the Giant, I thought she got the Andre the Giant treatment. I think she was either on Apple Crate.
That's right.
She was either on Apple Crate or JoJo. They dug a trench for her to stand in because the height difference was just absurd. I don't know if that's real or not. Or
she wore flats, and Stephanie, at 6 feet tall almost anyway, was in heels.
They probably in 12-inch heels. So I thought that was interesting. But anyway, be that as it may, the whole Stephanie involvement, if you just look at the NXT women coming and take that at face value, it's great. And this match was hopefully the start of something special, something good for the women's division, because it was a very good match. Now, let's move on to Cena versus Owens, Part 3. Let me just say this, that to me, if you look at Cena's two big rivalries this year, with Rusev and with Kevin Owens, I feel that I've gotten, I don't want to say more entertainment, but I would think that my whole stance on the difference between the Rusev feud and the Owens feud is that with the Rusev feud, you had more variety in the kinds of matches that you were getting. And I think that made for a more overall entertaining feud. And also you had the wild card of Lana, even though I think they totally killed her character now. That's a story for another time. But Owens, the matches with Owens and Cena, let me just say, have been very great, very entertaining, and they've been very spot heavy. A lot of the issue of kicking out everyone's finishers and just building up. It's like a very much an ROH match. He did that that torture rack into the backbreaker, and you were like, shouldn't that be a finisher? I'm like, it would have been 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, again, they're very good matches. But I think all three of the matches we saw over these last 3 months have been very samey. I mean, they've been good matches, but they've been all very similar. And I mean, I don't know if
this one went at least one spot too long, in my opinion.
Yeah,
because when they did the Bobby Lashley,
the AA from the top,
yeah,
and Owens kicked out of that. I mean, like, come on, guys.
Where do we go from here? Get one of the 20-foot ladders like the Hardys used to get with the Dudleys and Edge and Christian, and do one off of there. You might kill them then.
Right. So Cena won the match, and he keeps the title. What? And I know a lot of people.
Great gear, by the way, tonight.
Oh yes, he put on his fanciest athletic shorts. Yeah. But what do you think? A lot of people think that Owens needed to win this match and needed to win the championship. What's your take on that?
I don't know. To be 100% honest, I've been doing spoilers the last few weeks because I just decided to get rid of my cable, and I haven't got the network yet because you indulged in it. I'm here for it. But at the same time, what I read and what I see online with the bits and pieces I go and watch, I don't really think so. There's a million different ways you could go after this with him. I'm not sure how it's all going to go. I think an interesting thing maybe would be him to, just blow his mind that he can't get over on Cena or something, and then he has something with Wyatt or something where I don't know, head games type stuff. I'm interested to see him in feuds like that now in a weird way. I maintain that eventually we should have a feud between Owens and Wyatt, and the loser has to shave their beard and not wear a shirt, just so we can keep them apart. But yeah, I mean, and great pants splitting action, by the way. I just want to say that. Hey, once they get the deal of Tap Out, is he going to be the new Tap Out kid? Is he going to Owens just all tap?
That'd be fine. Well, he would need to get a submission finisher, I would think. Yeah, but it was a very good match. If this is the final chapter of Cena Owens, it was a very good way to end it. And like we were talking about, I don't think Owens needed to win the championship. I think it would have been great if he did, but it's not a deal breaker that he hasn't. You could argue that Cena should have passed the torch to Owens, and then he'll eventually, he could win the title back at some point, maybe at SummerSlam. I don't know if you want to cut Owens' reign that short, but I mean, give Owens, let Cena lose a rivalry for once. When's that ever going to happen? I mean, he loses maybe once every 12, 13 months now.
Where does he go from here? Who do you think they're going to feud him with?
That's a good question. I mean, I think now
maybe a gimmick match at SummerSlam, like a steel cage match.
They could do that. Maybe they could throw Cesaro into it. I think that once the Cena Owens feud officially dies, I think Cesaro's at that point now where I think they're priming him to be the next guy, because they've already kind of blown it, because they have wrestled like a few times now in this U.S. Open Challenge thing, so I don't really know where they could go from here with that. But it would seem to me that Cesaro is one of those next guys who would step up and possibly do a substantial feud with John Cena. But I mean, as far as Owens goes, I mean, I'm curious to see what happens next for him, because he started out the gate in a big way feuding with John Cena, the top dog. So now what's left for him to do? What is he going to do? I mean, you could see him possibly, when Ryback gets back, and we'll get to him in a minute, when Ryback gets back, maybe Owens will take the Intercontinental title from him. Or they could do something truly shocking, and Owens could beat Rollins for it. Who knows what's going to happen with that? Again, we don't like to speculate too much on the future, because we're talking about something that just happened here.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the segment before the main. It was supposed to be the three-way for the IC title with Ryback, Miz, and Big Show. But
thank God,
as many of you know from the dirt sheets, Ryback got a staph infection, and so he was forced to sit out. Boy, that Intercontinental title sure is cursed. So what we got instead, what I thought was a segment that was much better than what that triple threat match would have been.
Yes.
I think for what you want to say about Miz and how his character's been kind of pissed away now, I think Miz as a promo is still very solid. He's one of the better talkers they have. Obviously, I mean, he's got the acting chops, so he's perfect for that role. You and I were joking about his outfits that he comes out to the ring.
Marie seriously needs to look in her closet, because she is missing some items.
He had the low cut thing that Shawn Michaels used to rock.
That wasn't even the worst part. It was that little jacket thing.
The doily that Miz was wearing. But I mean, obviously it's meant to get heat and get that kind of eye-rolling thing, because I don't think any other human being dresses like that in an unironic way. But I think he nails that kind of thing, because every pay-per-view his outfit gets more ridiculous. So I think that's what people are talking about more than this. His promo's good. I liked his old jab at Big Show. He's been missing since the Attitude Era. I thought that was kind of funny.
I love that. I did that. That was great.
And the thing is, had the match actually happened, the way they were building this feud, I personally couldn't. I could not root against The Miz on this one, because when you're the smallest guy against two giant faces, or a clear-cut face and a tweener in Big Show, why are we booing you? Why are we wanting you to lose when you're clearly the underdog? It was a really confusing booking, and like I would have much rather just had Miz Ryback instead of keeping Big Show glommed onto the whole thing. Ryback and Big Show, like sometimes Haas versus Haas can work well together. We saw Ryback fighting Bray Wyatt and really showing that he can work a good match. But when you're working against a more limited guy in Big Show, then you get more exposed. And I think his title reign has not been the best. And the fact that he's been feuding with Big Show primarily since he won the belt has been a big issue, in my opinion.
To me, like I told you, the Big Show is at the point where I think he is, if anybody, should have a Brock Lesnar type contract where he's only an attraction that comes 2-3 times a year, you know, because then it makes him interesting. When he has to do a storyline week to week, you can't always have this guy going over. He's become such a goof.
Or you can't have him jobbing all the time, which is what he does.
Exactly. You know, most of the time, in the main events, you know, so they still keep him up at that main event level. But to me, what would have been best here maybe is do something where Show Miz gets back together unexpectedly, and maybe give an arrogant Miz with Big Show in more of a bodyguard role instead.
Well, I think the end of this segment kind of showed that's probably not going to happen immediately, because Miz has taken the KO punch a couple of times last few weeks.
Sure has.
I think Miz with a bodyguard would be good for him, but he just had that though with Damian Mizdow, who, by the way, boy, that singles run sure is working out well for him.
Where in the hell is he?
Where is Macho Mizdow? Where is Axelmania? What a waste. And we were talking about the Lucha Dragons and how they've been wasted. What about the Mega Powers?
The most over people at WrestleMania 31 are no longer on the card right now. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, it's weird. It's amazing what they do to piss away organically over stuff. You know, it's just amazing.
What can we just in an instance? You know, we can name things like Lana and Rusev. Lana's run by herself.
Lana's super over now. She's just another face in the crowd. Daniel Bryan. They kept trying to cut that off.
Ziggler.
Of course, now he's hurt. Ziggler.
Zack Ryder. Big E even had a nice run going before WrestleMania 29. I don't care what anybody has to say. When he had his Intercontinental title run, he was hot.
Was he champion?
He was Intercontinental champion going into WrestleMania 29, and that's when they had the first Andre the Giant. Or, well, no, I'm sorry, 30.
Was the first one.
Going into 30.
Yeah, okay. Because 29, he was still Ziggler's body.
Yeah, that's right. That's my bad. But going into 30, I don't care what anybody says, Big E was hot.
Yeah.
And for some reason, they decided to keep him off the card, and he was in that Andre the Giant Battle Royal. And
I think he was the first victim of the Intercontinental title curse that's happening right now. But that's a whole other issue. But anyway, enough about that. I'm out of water, so we got to wrap this up. We got to get to the end of this thing. The main event: Brock Lesnar versus Seth Rollins. My mind, I was just racking my brain for a long time as the build of this match goes, because the whole time I was going, how are they going to do this? I mean, maybe they will put the title back on Lesnar. What out are they going to give Lesnar if he does lose to Rollins or doesn't win the title? Well, I guess we found our out, didn't we?
I guess so.
Because I don't know how to feel yet about the rematch that they are now having for SummerSlam with Lesnar and Taker. I think it's great that Taker is expanding. He's opening his schedule up a little more these days.
2 a year.
Yeah. Hey, slow down, man. You don't want to work yourself too hard. Was it me? I thought Taker looked, and this is very vain and maybe very vapid of me to say, but Taker looked very old.
I am Vigo, ruler of Carpathia. Scar of Batavia.
He definitely, he's definitely showing his age. I think he needs to put on more eyeliner. I don't know what he's got to do to correct that. But it was just really weird. But I thought it was cool that he came back. It was a surprise because the match itself with Lesnar and Rollins, you could just literally put any other opponent he's had in the last year and a half, and it's all the same. Now, Lesnar, his style right now is very one-dimensional, which is fun for the first few minutes, but boy, that stuff gets old after a while.
It does.
As much as followers of the show know that Lesnar's my number one guy, he's my A1 Ichiban kind of guy, right? He's my favorite wrestler that I've seen. And so I think what he could do is maybe show a little more diversity in his matches, not just be what Taz was in ECW, where he was just suplex all the live long day. But again, Rollins.
What do you want? A shooting star play?
Yeah, shooting star press. Yeah, let's get some shooting star presses in. Let's throw those in. Rollins sold like a champ for him. I mean,
yeah, he did.
It's like, I think it's one of those things where I don't know where the title's going to go from here. We know what's happening with Lesnar. I don't have any idea what's going to happen with Seth Rollins as far as the championship goes. I heard rumors a while ago that maybe Rollins and Triple H were going to fight at SummerSlam, so I thought that maybe he would lose the title there and they would work to that. But who knows at this point? I mean, the Rollins situation, the championship situation, I think, is taking a back seat to what's going on with Cena, whatever he's going to do with the title, to Lesnar and Taker. But yeah, I think that.
Could we insert Sting, maybe?
Yeah, and I don't know
Sting.
that's the thing. We keep hearing Sting is going to work SummerSlam. Who knows what he's going to do, though? I mean, you heard a rumor that it was going to be him and Reigns against.
Yeah, him and Reigns against
Wyatt and Harper.
Wyatt and Harper. So I heard, and that's where he fit the best, is what they said. But I did, that's just speculation.
If anyone could give Reigns the rub where The Rock could not do it, it would be Sting. But we'd have to see about that. So yeah, I mean, I think SummerSlam should be very. Let's compare this, because you remember last year. Did you watch last year's Battleground?
I want to say I did.
I think a lot of people crapped on last year's Battleground because it felt like just a ho-hum edition of Raw, because there were a lot of unresolved things and a lot of things where they were just like clearly just like going through the motions until SummerSlam.
Yeah.
But this one, I feel there was a lot more interesting stuff. We had a lot of big pop-worthy moments. We had the Divas match. We had Cena Owens 3, that possible finality. We had the arrival of The Undertaker, that alone, if everything else were crap, I think that would have made it a more interesting show. But yeah. I don't think everything was crap. I think the thing is, I feel almost kind of like I'm in this weird phase right now where I don't watch Raw every week. I read the results, like I said. So, and for all accounts, the Raws are crap. They're mostly pretty boring. It's one of those things where if you took it back down to 2 hours, it'd be so much more interesting. But Raws are general snooze fests. So what I'm winding up doing is I'm watching just the pay-per-views, which are way more wrestling than talking. And lately, I've noticed, especially this year, most of the matches have been really good. At least, in my estimation, at least C to B at the very minimum matches. Not a whole lot of crap matches. So I feel like I'm in this weird thing where, oh yeah, WWE's doing great because they have all these great pay-per-view matches. But, obviously, and like I was saying earlier with the network, I think they need to make the pay-per-views more worth watching. And I think they're finally getting to that point. The Raws still suck, but the pay-per-views, I feel, this year especially, have just been all really good. I haven't really found a really awful one yet. What would you say?
Yeah, the work rate's been really good. I know the last couple weeks have kind of been pretty hot on Raw just because of what's going on with the Divas and Cesaro and Rusev. I mean, there's some interesting pairings going on. You never thought you'd see Rusev and Owens going at it quite yet, or Cesaro in that mix, I mean, these are, whatever.
Mm-hmm. I think, but based on last week's Raw, seeing a lot of those names, and then seeing Battleground, I think SummerSlam is shaping up to be another really good, solid SummerSlam. We don't know what's happening with Dean Ambrose. I mean that was weird. He wasn't even booked tonight. But
I see him getting thrown into the Wyatt Shield type deal, almost with Reigns.
I mean, I could see more of a Reigns-Ambrose versus Wyatt and Harper thing.
How different is that going to be than the triple threat, really, though? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, I think overall, I would give this a B+, A- grade. What would you say?
As far as work rate, like a B+. Mm-hmm. And solid performances from everybody. I didn't see anybody lacking in wrestling skill. That's for sure.
Yeah, no huge botches. I mean, like I said, I think the opening match felt a little robotic, here's what we're going to do now. But other than that, I think everything else was fine. So
we saw an adios bomb out of Cena too.
Yeah, for the second straight match with Owens, we saw the adios, and it was done a lot better this time too. Let me know what you guys think. Leave your thoughts in the comment section. I don't know if I'm doing this Google Hangout thing right, because I'm looking at the chat bar to my right and it's blank, but I know people have been trying to get in. I got to test this out or something, because I would hope you are all chatting and saying something very
10
clever.
viewers.
I know, it's been jumping up and down. So, I mean, I would hope that you guys are contributing to this. I'd like you to. And I keep seeing comments saying I couldn't get into the chat. That's what I saw last time at the Elimination Chamber live review. So I don't know if I'm doing things wrong or what, because I have chat enabled. So I don't know. Maybe you guys could fill me in, because this is still new to me. But I appreciate you guys watching this. Leave your thoughts in the comment section. What did you think of the Battleground pay-per-view, and how is SummerSlam going to shape up after this pay-per-view? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Be sure to thumbs up this video, subscribe to Wrestling with Regret, and don't forget to buy the t-shirt. We're still on the summer break, no new episodes for a while, but they are going to be coming back, I do believe, in the fall, the late fall. And I will tell you, though, I am working on a little video project. Not going to say anything as far as details go, but I think that when it all comes down to fruition, I think you are going to like it. If you thought that Cornette Gets It Wrong was great, you're going to like this next project I have coming up. So until next time, I'm Brian Zane.
I'm J Biggs.
And we will see you next time.